continuing from where we left off yesterday on Maamar, Ani b'tzedek echazah p'necha. We are at the bottom of the first column on page Chof Bet, 3 lines up at the dot Vihine ehefach mimida zo. Yesterday we discussed the Maamar Chazal that Yerushalayim wasn't destroyed, was only destroyed because they decided to rely on Midat Adin, on the strict letter of the law. Do I have to or do I not? We delineated 3 very specific reasons why Midat Adin, strict judgment, doesn't really allow for the world to exist. The first one was, people don't like judgment. They don't like the truth when it isn't in their favor. The second one is that when we decide that somebody is evil, inherently bad, when we throw him out, he inevitably is going to become involved with other things which we also find undesirable. We call this yinika lechitzonim. As we said before, chitzonim, those are those instrumental things that exist in the world, and they exist for instrumental purposes. You have 2 kinds. You have noiga, which are instrumental things which do have a positive purpose, and you have the other shelosha klipos setomeos, which are those instrumental things which have no positive purpose, or at least for Jews. And the third reason was because due to the differences between different people, Midat Adin inevitably will lead to dispute and separation between them. Machlokes. Really, these 3 concepts are 3 facets of one concept. They're all really intertwined. And now we're going to start by discussing what we call Midasos Shel Yaakov, Midat HaRachamim. Vini, ההפך ממידה זו הוא מידתו של Yaakov. The opposite of Midas Adin is the attribute of Yaakov, שנקרא ברך התיכון. It's called the middle way. וכולו כידוע. והוא עניין מידס הרחמים, and it is the idea of the attribute of mercy, שהוא עושה וגורם בחינס האחדוס, הפוך בחינס הפירוד, which is the cause of unity, which is the opposite of disunity. In English, the words are the antinomial nature is a little bit more explicit. The shoresh of the varim, and as to the root of the matter, we're going to bring a couple Maamarei Chazal to explain this. Specifically, we're returning back to the 3rd reason we mentioned before, that because people are different, Midas Adin inevitably is going to lead to differences between them. Now we are going to go back to this idea and discuss it as it relates to Midaso Shel Yaakov, the idea of mercy, and connect it also to the other 2 reasons. Amar Rabbeinu Zechronim Livracha. This Agada is in Maseches Ta'anis on the 5th page, the 2nd side. Yaakov Avinu Lomes. It says that Yaakov Avinu, as is an explicit pasuk, that Yaakov Avinu did not die. The pasuk says that he did die. Pirush mepnei shmidaso shel Yaakov ein siba liyenichas hachitzonim. That the quality which Yaakov was rooted from and represented in his place in the Merkava, and the representation of the supernal midot, is that Yaakov Avinu, this quality of mercy, does not allow for Niyinikat HaChitzonim. The truth is, this concept is really explained at very great length in Torah's Chaim in Parshas Toldos, regarding the Vasatmot Plishtim et Beberos shel Avraham Avinu, that the Plishtim somehow managed to close the wells which Avraham Avinu dug, and they were opened by Yitzchak, who's Midas HaEmet. to give a very, very brief recap from what it says there, and maybe in the future we'll get to Toras Chaim. Essentially, we mentioned in our previous shiur that Avraham Avinu represents Chesed. Avraham Avinu would give to anybody whatever they wanted, so long as they thanked God for it. So long as they recognized that the true source of everything is God. Yitzchak, on the other hand, threw out all of his father's students except for Eliezer, and sat and taught Yaakov Torah. This is Midas Din. Yaakov, on the other hand, we find that for Avraham Avinu, one son, so to speak, went off the derech, Yishmael, and one son stayed. Yishmael was the posolis of Chesed, of Ahava. And likewise, for Yitzchak, one of his sons went off the derech, and the other one said. The one that stayed was the posolis of the Gevuros of Yaakov, and the other one was his son, Yitzchak, was his son Yaakov, who, rather than being sourced in the Gevuros, he was sourced in the Tferes, in Midas Tferes, which is Midas Rachamim. The reason delineated, and we mentioned it yesterday, was with Chesed, obviously, when you give a terrorist a gun, he's going to go out and kill people. I don't think there needs to really be much of an explanation as to how unrestricted kindness can provide for less than desirable events. Likewise, Chesed, pure Chesed, does whatever anybody asks. You ask me now, give you $5,000. Somebody else comes and says, why should you give him $5,000? Give it to me. He says, okay, fine, I'll give it to you. Pure Chesed, simply because somebody asked, I'm going to do something. Likewise, maybe he really needs that $5,000 because he's going to die because he has to have a surgery in another 5 days. It requires very little explanation. The truth is that the idea of Gevuros, of the judgment, providing for off the derech, sometimes feels intuitively understandable, but when we think about it, it makes it's intuitively very understandable. Logically, it doesn't make much sense. Well, if he has it coming to him, he has it coming to him. Most parents, their child can be, I don't even want to think about what, and they won't throw them out of the house. There are other parents who will. It's a difference in approach. But after you've thrown the kid out of the house, it's very obvious that he may get involved in all kinds of undesirable things. And it really is a very desperate last resort measure. So, from this, Gevuros, the less than stellar attributes of Gevuros have been the subject of the previous shiur. So now we're going to discuss why it is that Yaakov Avinu's children, every single one of them, stayed on the derech. Even Yosef, who went to live with the Mitzrim, and also Dinah, who according to various opinions was sent off. All of them stayed on the derech. Why? The answer that we're going to come to is that Yaakov Avinu approached each of them individually for what they were, not necessarily for what he wanted them to be, and tried to take them from what they were to what they could be in their service of Hashem, which left all of the 12 Shevatim with distinct paths in their service of God. And by not trying to make one follow the path of another one, every single one of them was able to fulfill his potential to its fullest. Each one according to his root in Zer and Pin, and each and every single one of them according to their capacities and their particular strengths and their particular experiences. So we're going to continue. מפני שמידתו של יעקב אין סיבה ליניקה לחיצונים, שזוהו הנפילה שנקרא מיסה. Yinika lichitzonim is what we call death. When we start providing vitality to those undesirable elements, this is death. It represents a separation from the source of life. And when we no longer live, by way of consequence, it's called death. Ki bechinas Yaakov hu shor shetichon, shor shetikun. The quality of Yaakov is in tikkun. We mentioned before briefly, Tohu, you have the world of Tohu and you have the world of tikkun. Tohu is very strong auras, very strong lights, hashpa'ah, effusions, and very weak kelim, very weak vessels which are intended to hold that effusions. We'll discuss more about the oris and kelim in the next Maamar in Pasach Eliyahu. But for the moment, it's sufficient to say that, generally speaking, with Tohu, everything is betoikif, everything is with intensity, lack of compromise, an unwillingness to see any side other than your own. Tikkun represents a hiskalalut, an interweaving and a joining of otherwise apparently disparate ways of doing things, disparate midot, all of them for a single, constant, unified goal, end. And Yaakov is, his central attribute is Tiferes, which is the central attribute of this idea of Tikkun. V'chinas is kalalus, it's the quality of interwovenness, of interwovenness. Hefuch hapirud ve'en inikas chitzonim ele mipsol esedin sheba me'ochinas hapirud k'nisba le'el. This kalulus, this interweaving, this interdependence, and this unity, this kind of joining between different things, is the opposite of distinction, separation, division. And the only real source, the truth is, Chesed is also a source of uniquely chitzonim, but partially because Chesed in its purest state, Gevuros are very inclined to present themselves in a pure state of Gevuros. Chesed a little bit less so. But generally speaking, from this Toikif, the Tikkun gives no uniquely chitzonim because everything is according to what is appropriate for the recipient. In Gevuros, it's what's appropriate for the giver. What's appropriate for the person who is trying to affect somebody else. The enin, and this is the psole sedin, this overdoing it, you might say, which we mentioned previously in yesterday's lesson. Uvir inyan midas Yaakov man nikra b'riach hatichon. And to explain the concept of Yaakov's attribute, which is called the middle way, b'riach hatichon, ein ze mitzad shu atzmo bilvad nikra tichon. It isn't just because it's called tichon, meaning the middle, ela milashon techanta amudei asela, that you planned or set its pillars, its supports. The Yinikasiv, now see that it's written in Tanakh. It's a pasuk. Kol derech ish yashar beinav v'sochen libo is Hashem. The way of all people are straight in their eyes. It's a pasuk in Koheles and Ecclesiastes. V'sochen libo is Hashem, and sochen, the hearts of and Hashem is sochen, hearts, people's hearts. The word sochen is the subject of the discussion right now. Pirush v'sochen ze hainu gamken lashon v'techanta. The word sochen, we're now establishing it to be from the same root as this word techanta, which means to plan or to set. V'ze hainu gamken v'inyan hu, and the concept. We're also going to now bring another Maamar as a Chazal. Our sages said with regards to a bracha, which we call the bracha merazim, when you see 600,000 people, which is the same number of people who came out of Yetzias Mitzrayim, we are required to recite a bracha that we call Chachem Razim, which appreciates Hashem's ability to come to each and every single person for what he is. Not as he relates to somebody else, but for what he is. Also in his relationship to everything else. Because Hashem includes everything. It's inclusive. Hashem is inclusive. V'inyan Chachem Razim, Chulu, מה שנאמר ביהושע איש אשר רוח בו, שהוא כולל מכל מיני דעות ורוחos בני אדם. We say that Yehoshua also, when Moshe was Saimech him, Yehoshua gained the ability to relate to each and every single individual for what he is. He gained what we call sometimes a neshama kolelet, a general neshama, which had a relationship with every single individual. Something we see sometimes in Torah are apparently very unkind words and descriptions given from one Talmid Chacham to another. There's an example that Ramban, Nachmanides, describes Rambam's Shita regarding to the Karbanos that they were only Lefisha. He says, if I remember correctly, Kasil b'choshech holech, fools that walk in darkness. And a number of other epithets there. The reason why he would describe this so is explained by the Mittel Rebbe, again in Toras Chaim, that generally speaking, two people who are from completely different roots in godliness don't usually see eye to eye. And if they are so completely different and have no relationship with the other, and there's no common denominator between them, then you may even come to a situation where it seems that they actually hate each other. There was I don't think we have to go too far back to see examples. Rav Avraham Chaim Noah and the Chazon Ish didn't get along. The Alter Rebbe and the Gra didn't get along, despite the fact that they had many minhagim in common. And the Piskei Dinim of the Gra in his Bira on the Shulchan Aruch, in many places are very, very similar to the Alter Rebbe's. Likewise, in every generation there were those who very firmly disagreed with each other. The Beis Yosef and the Arizal are noted to have had some very strong disagreements between themselves. But with all of this, likewise, going back even, you have stories in Gemara where one Chacham says about another, he never fulfilled the mitzvah in his entire life. Which is a very, very severe statement. The Alter Rebbe the Mittler Rebbe relates to us that the source of these statements is the lack of overlap, the lack of common denominator in their respective roots in Zeir Anpin, in the presentation, and that aspect that presents Hashem to us. And those Sheva Midot and these 7 attributes of Hashem, their roots don't have any hiskalulus. There's no commonality between them. So this particular Agada states to us that Yehoshua was a man who had commonality with every single individual in Israel. Given the jokes about everybody needs at least 3 Bati Knesiot, one that I daven in, one that I sometimes visit, and one that I don't even walk in there, I think should tell us something about the really remarkable quality that Yehoshua and also his master Moshe Rabbeinu had. They are the quality of the opinions and intellect, meaning their intellectual capacities of each and every single individual. That the wisdom, the knowledge of the chachma, the intelligence, the intellectual capacities of one individual are not similar to someone else. I know Lahavdil Gardner Howard Gardner wrote his 8 Forms of Intelligence, recognizing that different people, remarkably intelligent and very talented, may come to their solutions in remarkably different fashions, even if they come to the exact same solution. In chemistry class, when you give a slightly off answer, very often the professor may remark, well, it depends on when you did your rounding, if you rounded first or if you rounded later. Likewise, even among things that would seem so empirical, there are very, very great debates as to whether or not you should round your numbers whenever you work with them, or whether or not all of the garbage that ends after your last significant digit actually does contribute some amount of precision to your final answer, which can sometimes differ by a point or two, by a couple numbers. So likewise, as people have different experiences and different natural talents and different natural perspectives, those who are inclined towards Chassidim will generally speaking be mekel. They'll generally speaking will look to find whatever good can be represented in what's being done. Those who are from the Gvuros are going to be looking for whatever possibility for error, for something less than good. This is actually, by the way, very much the difference between the Dati Leumi and the modern Orthodox community in America and the Black Hat or Haredi community in those same 2 countries. Generally speaking, the modern Orthodox are looking for something positive. If there's something positive in it, they're going to try to use it. The Haredi perspective says, yeah, but what if? Not everybody's going to come out of secular studies whole. There is a story. I don't know the truth value of it, but there's a story that came out that the Gra, it's very well publicized, that the Gra said that whatever you lack in secular studies, you will lack 1,000 times in your studies in Kodesh and Torah. So he actually asked for Euclid to be translated into Hebrew, that book on geometry, and he sent many of his students to various universities after they finished their Torah studies to help them acquire a broad basis in secular knowledge, which certainly you don't have to go too far to see the benefit, the very broad benefit in learning Torah, to recognize what we're actually discussing. If you don't know that boris means soap, you're going to have a very hard time understanding what Taz is talking about. And if you don't know that soap is made by taking ashes from wood, putting them in water and using them to make lye, which is a mixture of potassium and sodium hydroxide, and treating fats with it to create a molecule which is both polar and nonpolar, you're going to have a very difficult time understanding what the connection could be between treating fats with some kind of material and basar b'chalav. They say that a number of his students, which he sent, didn't manage to handle the secular studies, which, by the way, the Ramah and the Lavush actually define the study of these materials as pardes, about which it was said that 4 individuals entered into the pardes and only one of them, Rabbi Akiva, came out. Acher was said that he used to study Greek philosophy, and in the end, when he saw a kid fulfilling his parents' instruction to send away a mother bird, fell from the ladder and died, and Acher, consequently, became a heretic and went off the derech. So, naturally speaking, the idea that the Gra saw benefit to secular studies and sent many of his students, those students that went off the derech perhaps shouldn't have been sent in the first place had we thought about it carefully, because they obviously weren't up to the task. Chesed would say, well, there's benefit, so maybe everybody should do it, and if somebody falls, they fall. Chachma, Gvuros would say, it could be that somebody would fall, we can never be sure who it is, no secular studies whatsoever, not even for a purpose. Yeah, you're right, they'll be able to support themselves, but if even one person goes off the derech, even one person ceases to keep Shabbat, becomes lax in a single mitzvah, consequently, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Generally speaking, this is the root between these 2 approaches, and Baruch Hashem, we in Chabad are try a little bit to tend more towards the Borech HaTichon. As we said, that these are the opinions of every single person. That the wisdom of one is not similar to his friend. And you won't find two people that understand the same thing the same way. This one understands this way and this one understands this way. Very frequently, it's very bullet in yeshiva. You can have two individuals arguing over the pshat in a given sentence. You know what? Lately, we signed this wicked deal with Iran. And lahavdi ben elef avdalot. The Iranians have been claiming that this deal is completely voluntary, and in exchange for their deciding to do some of these options, that the West is going to give them a very broad range of leniencies and release from various sanctions and other undesirables. Kerry has been consistently saying that no, it's not true. They're absolutely obligated by everything that it says there, and if they don't do it, they're not going to get anything. The actual sentence says that Iran hereby undertakes the following voluntary actions. The word voluntary here really contradicts the previous word, hereby undertakes. Apparently Iran has signed to do these things, and so the question is what exactly the meaning of voluntary here is. Kerry obviously is emphasizing hereby undertakes. Iran is emphasizing voluntary, what some people would claim, the fi pshuto, according to its simple sense, that we're not obligated to do any of these things. Very often, certain people that I won't even mention have kept themselves from being chargeable with perjury by being very precise with their words and leading people to a conclusion that perhaps they didn't really intend. So likewise, when we listen to a sentence, because our sentences, generally speaking, are not 100% precise, they can lead themselves to differing interpretations based on how we take the exact meaning and use of different words. מחמת שגוף ועצם השגת שכל זה אינו דומה להשגת שכל חברו. And all of this is because the actual understanding of this person's intelligence is not similar to his friends. They have different talents, different strengths, different emphases, depending on where they themselves stand in Seder Ishtalshalut, and what their own source is in this world, and what their own job is in this world. וכן בהתפעלות הלב, מחולקים ומובדלים הם כל אחד מחברו. And so too, in the way people emote, in their affect, in the way that we relate to people, different individuals are not similar to others. There's a story that Rabbi Akiva and several other Chachamim were walking by the Beis Hamikdash just after the Chorban. All of them looked and saw some shualim playing on the Beis Hamikdash, and they started to cry. And the Rabbi Akiva started to laugh. They said, "How can you laugh?" And Rabbi Akiva said, "The Navi already told us this would happen. He told us that there would be foxes playing on the side of the Beis Hamikdash. If the Navi was right about this, how much more so will he be right in the future? I can look forward to the day, possibly near in the future, where we will see a third, greater, and bigger Beis Hamikdash, bigger temple than what we used to have. The previous temple was given to us by Herod, who was a heretic, and a servant and a lackey of the Roman Empire. The next temple will be built by Hashem. We won't be dependent on the Romans. We won't be dependent on those chitzonim, those not intrinsic, but those purely practical forces which exist in the world for a specific end, those instrumental forces, but this will be intrinsic, provided to us by God, promised to us by God, and protected for us by God." So therefore he started to laugh. They were looking behind at the sadness of the actual event, but Rabbi Akiva couldn't help but start thinking about tomorrow. There are many people who are stuck in the past, and some who are stuck in the future, and some who sit in the present and never change. וכן בהספעלוס הלב מחולקים ומובדלים המה כל אחד מחברו. יש מספעל כך ויש מספעל כך. One emotes in this fashion, one emotes in another fashion. באופן אחר, לפי שהלב בהספעלוסו הרי נולד מן השכל, וכפי השגת השכל, כך יספעל הלב כידוע. This subject is actually going to be discussed very much in depth in the next Maamar with regards to Ratzon Ha'elyon and Ratzon Ha'tachton. In short, generally speaking, you have thoughts and emotions which are intrinsic to the individual and which shape his thoughts. But also, depending on the way a person understands a situation, this informs how he should react to it. There's the famous example of the boy walks into the room full of filth. One says, "Why'd you give me filth?" And the second one says, "There must be a pony!" So too, everybody with regards to every single situation, some may see the good in it, incurable optimism, and some may see nothing but the bad. באופן אחר, לפי שהלב בהספעלוסו, הרי נולד מן השכל. וכפי השגת השכל, כך יספעל הלב כידוע. According to how you understand the situation, that is how your heart will respond to it, and that's how you will feel about it. If you knew that you just missed that, there was actually an example a while back of somebody who missed a plane with the Malaysian Airlines flight 370. It came out that somebody missed his flight and was very upset, until it turned out that it saved his life. He missed a flight, but in the end it saved his life. At the time he was upset. Had he known in advance that that flight was going to be lost, certainly he would have been happy that somebody had informed him. Had somebody informed him ahead of time that there's a terrorist plot to hijack this flight and crash it in the ocean, or hopefully not anything less desirable than that, he would have said, "Thank you for telling me," and purposely pushed off his flight. And because his life is so valuable, it would not matter what he lost, how many business deals he had to forego. He would have been more than overjoyed, even if he was sad about losing several $1 million, let's say, because of a business deal. He would have been overjoyed by the fact that his life was saved by this timely source of information. And it's the same event. The question is how you appreciate it and what you see in it. Alken, כמו שבשכל מובדל מחברו, כך בהספעלוס שנודע מן השכל, גם כן אין אחד דומה לחברו. And therefore, just as people's intelligence, people's understanding of things are different, so too are their emotions, so too are their feelings, and their relations with different individuals different. וזהו כל דרך איש ישר בעיניו. And this is the meaning of our pasuk in Koheles, that everyone's way is straight in his own eyes. Pirush kol echad ve'echad kufum shirei dilei. Every single one according to his measure. According to the, literally speaking, shirei dilei refers to the amount that his pail can hold. One pail holds a gallon, one pail holds 50. V'sichlo d'mesha'er b'libo, in his heart, and which measures in his intelligence, in his intellect, and which measures in his heart. כך הוא מספעל, כמו שכתוב בזוהר, על פסוק נודע בשערים בעלה, so he emotes, so is his affect, as it says in the Zohar, al pasuk noda b'sharim bala, that her husband is known at the gates, kol chad v'chad lefum shirei dilei, every single one according to his capacity. Shirei dilei is generally speaking translated here as capacity. The Misha'er b'libei. Al ken, ve'al ken, muvdal kol echad ve'echad mechaviro, v'chol derech ish yishar me'od be'einav, so too is every single person distinct from his friend, and the way of his heart, and every single person's way is extremely straight, extremely appropriate in his eyes. V'derech hasagosav v'ispalusav v'derech hasagot v'ispalut zulaso zar be'inav. And the ways of others are strange to him, me'od, extraordinarily, v'lo yichol lisovlo klal. And he cannot tolerate them. Here we've gotten back to the subject, come back to explain to ourselves somewhat the three things that we mentioned previously. Why, by nature, derech ish yashar beinav doesn't just mean that a person is incapable of seeing his own chovot. The first reason we gave yesterday is essentially she'en ben adam roeh chovat atzmo. A person does not see his own faults. It's not just that he loves himself and therefore isn't willing to see himself as less than perfect. In the first instance, when he did what he did, if he didn't think about it, it's because he didn't think it to be important. Were he to have thought it important, were he to have thought that that his friend would sue him for millions of dollars for accidentally pouring hot coffee, like I think I mentioned in the previous shiur on him, he would have looked a little bit and probably given his friend a few feet. Likewise, had his friend been wary that he'd burn himself and his friend by means of his coffee, he probably would have turned around and looked backwards. But because he didn't consider it important, he did not consider the chance of burning himself so and his friend so, and the chance that his friend would furthermore sue him to be significant, he didn't pay attention. Generally speaking, most people think about what they do before they do it. They think about their actions, they think about the consequences of their actions, according to what matters to them, according to what does not matter to them. That's one of the reasons why people get so offended when somebody l'chora, so it would seem close to them, does something that's so detrimental. Because didn't I matter? Didn't I matter enough that you would have thought about me in the first place? When a man is running out of his house because he has to be somewhere, he has to get to an important business meeting so that he can buy his wife this piece of jewelry, this book, a computer, a vacation that she so wanted, and he's thinking about the vacation, which is the intrinsic thing. The smile on his wife is the intrinsic goal. Running out the door to his instrumental goal, which is his business relationship. Forgets to kiss his wife goodbye and say goodbye to her. Because he's so focused on this future goal, and mind you, this future goal is not his wife as she is right now. Maybe she's right now screaming because one of the kids is being absolutely insufferable. And he's trying to get out and make sure that he doesn't get dragged into another discipline action so that he won't miss this business deal. And then his wife calls up to him and screams about him and says, "How could it be? You hate me. Why didn't you think about me before you left when you saw that I was having such a difficult time?" It's not true that he wasn't thinking about her. He was thinking about her. He was thinking about the vacation that she desperately needs so that she can get away with it all, calm down, look at her kids and say, "Oh, I love him because he's so smart, he gets such good grades, he's so social." At the moment she's focused on the discipline. She's not thinking about all these things. But because it wasn't so overarchingly important to him that he didn't think about her, at the moment that he was leaving, when he was even listening to her voice and say, "Hi, honey, I'm leaving," suddenly that lack of chashivut, that lack of attention, could be in extreme situations equated to, "You hate me, you don't like me at all." And if she's really angry, she might very well say that. So would a man. When we allow ourselves to be consumed by emotion, certainly we're only focusing on the situation at hand, and not the broader perspective. Aval. And that's to say that hopefully there's enough commonality between a man and his wife that they, generally speaking, aren't arguing all the time over petty details. Hopefully. Aval, v'sochen ruchos Hashem, and Hashem is soichen ruchos, v'chein v'soichen livois Hashem. Pirush, v'soichen hu hamashavehem u'makim otam. That v'soichen, the Alter Rebbe wants to give pshat right now, that this soichen is that for him, all of them are equivalent. None of them are any further from him than any other. And he's the one who established them. He's the one who sets them. He's the one who decides that there is benefit to me if there should be individuals who tend to be machmir, who tend to say it's also. And there tend to be individuals who say, yeah, but why not be matu? The Alter Rebbe himself says later on, in his Maamar, in his explanation on Baruch She'amar, he writes there explicitly that according to Torah, everything that we can separate out for Kedusha, we have to separate out for Kedusha, because otherwise, inevitably we are going to needlessly be providing ammunition to those chitzonim, those forces which seek to drag us down. We are unnecessarily making our lives more difficult. And yet at the same time, no one would take from this that we should say everything that anyone ever said was mutar is mutar. Liot kulam ba'ashava achat klalim u'kalolim kol hinimtzaim yachad bli pirud v'yischalkus klal kamo techanta. Meaning that Hashem establishes them, all of them, to be ba'ashava achat, in one equality, included and part of everything that's together with everything that exists, without any kind of distinction or separation at all, as He planned them. Hashem planned that He should be doing this and He should be doing this. Obviously, even though they can't see the commonality between them, Hashem sees how this one is furthering His goals and He is furthering His friend's goals, even if they hate each other. U'kumo v'shamayim b'zeret techen Shu inyan kiyum. That Hashem tachan, and therefore He established Shemaim. Kach al yedei Shem Havayeh, so too, by means of Shem Havayeh, which generally speaking represents Tiferes, the Rachamim aspect. Shuhu midas Tiferes, the Yaakov, Nikar Berech HaTichon. Shu akolel kol ruchois, v'chol halevavois, which includes all spirits and all hearts, v'chol minei hasagois, and all of the ideas and concepts that bnei Adam, which people have, v'chol minei hispa'alusam, and all of their kinds of effects, all of their kinds of emotions, all of their kinds of reactions. Mishavel lekulam yachad, all of them are equal from Hashem's perspective. V'al yedei zeh yesh lehem kiyum, and by means of this, they have a sustained existence, chazak, a strong sustained existence, below nefila klal, without any kind of falling. That Hashem is the God of the spirits of everybody, this God of everybody's perspective and everybody's zeitgeist, everybody's perspective and everybody's world, essentially. And just like the idea of Chacham Razim, Hashem is the core of all of it, Hashem is the one who planned it, and therefore obviously He includes. And just like Yeshua, which we said was the man who had the man who had a spirit in him, who was able to come and relate to every single individual in his entire kihila. And our sages said, that he could approach each and every single person according to his nature and needs. And now the quality, the attribute of Tiferes, this attribute of beauty and mercy, is the middle way. Hakolel hakol, which includes everything. Vainu v'tochen ruchois kol ruchois. Vainu v'tochen ruchois. The one that plants the winds, the spirits. Kol ruchois d'shishim riboy neshamois Yisrael. All of the spirits, all of the souls of all of the 600,000 souls of Israel. Generally speaking, we say that the 600,000 people who came out of Mitzrayim, each of them represented a general soul, which is a source of a group and kind of Jew, essentially, which is represented in every single generation, one way or another. V'chein v'sochen libois kol yispa'alus t'shishim ribui shishim ribui. It says v'chulu be'etzem hu al yedei shem avayav dafka v'day lemevin. And so too he says the neshamis Yisrael, and so too the sochen libois, the contents of their hearts, but really we're saying the what makes them exist, what equates them, the planning for their hearts, how we set aside every single one to have a specific portion. Ispalus the Shishim Ribui Neshamis Yisrael, that's the V'chulu, the 600,000 Jews and general Neshamis, is by means of Havaya, which relates to the Midas of Tiferes specifically, V'day Lemevin. To explain for ourselves for a little bit the V'day Lemevin, generally speaking, the name of Havaya is the dominant name in our world. The 7 Midos of Tohu are united, so to speak, by the name of Havaya, which represents a timeless quality. Havaya refers to it was, it is, and it will be. Something that's above the limits of time. And by means of that unity, we approach what we mentioned previously that we called the world of Tikkun, which essentially represents finding that commonality and the joined vision, so to speak, between all of the different things. We are seeing them all, rather than as separate powers, as a unified picture composed of different parts, which ultimately aren't even different parts, but merely a single plan which Hashem has for the world, and for existence, and for us. And for this reason, we have to fulfill the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, that you should love your fellow as yourself. Kodem atfilah, before davening. Ki yadua, kedei sheyachlol atzmo bebechinas hiska'alus va'achdus achas im klalus neshamas Yisrael, so that he should include himself and subsume himself in one unity with the generality of all Jewish souls, v'yishkon alav Shem Havaya, and that Shem Havaya should rest upon him. Shuhu atoichen kol haruchos. Generally speaking, during davening, we require ourselves to daven in a minyan with a number of individuals, all of them obviously different. Some of them might prefer not to speak to the other. It's very common. And by all of them being present through the overlapping nature of all of their positive qualities, they're able to elicit all of these 10 spheros represented in this unity of the 7 different emotive attributes which characterize Tohu. By means of this unity, and now by Avos Yisrael, we render ourselves part of that totality. Obviously, as we said before, the opposite of inclusiveness, the opposite of this achdut, this unity, is disunity. A person who right now harbors a grudge, has a chip on his shoulder against one of his friends, or another individual in the community. Obviously, this break is going to represent a vessel which isn't exactly appropriate for the light which it's supposed to receive. Thereby, this light, this divine life force which we are trying to draw down upon ourselves in our davening, cannot rest and can't exist there. Later we'll discuss about the subject of Yeshut, and that Shema can't exist with a Yesh, that Ayin can't be with Yesh, and that in order for us to be, that we need Bittul and all of these various concepts. We'll get to that later. But at the moment, the principal concept is that in order to daven, in order to bring down Hashem's unifying light, which is represented by Havaya, we ourselves need to be unified with those who are different from us. And it is the quality of Yaakov, Shuhu hefach midas hadin, which is the opposite of the quality of judgment. Agoremis pirud viskalkus, which causes separation and division. Lios derech zulaso zarbe nav, to be his friend, to be his other, strange in his eyes. Aval, but al yedei midazo, by means of this attribute of Yaakov, breichet tichon, which enables an individual to look at someone else, as I kind of discussed a little bit before, to look at his future, look at his potential, not just what he has done, not just what he is doing, but what he can do, and relate to him according to what he can do and according to his own personal capacity and his own personal strengths. Shegam derech zulaso yuchshar beinav. He will look at the other person for what he is, where he has come from. Like we say, don't judge him until you've been in his shoes. Yuchshar beinav. He will see how it's fitting for him, fitting for his purpose in life, fitting for his job. Komo darko, just as his is. Ulekach, and therefore, Amar Rabbeinu Zichronim Livracha, our sages said, Yaakov lo mes. Yaakov did not die. Remember, we said that none of his children went off the derech. Lefi she'ein mibidazo sibas inika lechitzonim. Because we're constantly asking ourselves, how can this be used for the service of Hashem? Not whether or not it has a capacity for bad, not whether or not it has a capacity for good, but how that capacity can be used for good. Klal, achar she'ein naseh mizeh shum pirud v'yischalkus, since there is no place for division and disunity, because this quality is the opposite of division and strife. In order that somebody should come to this midah, ein ze ela al yedei midas hashfelus, shemashpiles atzmo me'od. It's not possible except for humbleness, lowliness. That a person should understand his own faults. A person should understand he's not the center of everything. I am but a part of a broader picture. Shemashpiles atzmo. He makes himself lowly. Me'od, extremely. After every single davening there's a little paragraph that we say Elokai Nesham, that we that we daven for a number of things. One of them is Shenafshi lechoti afar tiyeh, that my soul should be dust before all, that I should be unimportant in my eyes as dust, and only here for a purpose, only here for my tachlis. She'al yedei zeh, by means of this, yichol lisached gam im hafucho, he can also unite with somebody who's entirely different from him. Unimshach al yedei zeh midas hatferes, and it's drawn forth by this, the quality of Tiferes, which, as we said, is that quality of unity which allows a inclusive commonality and not just a unity, but a certain integration between different factors. The Yaakov, Dehu Midas Rachamim, which is the quality of mercy, HaKolel Kol HaAfachim, which includes all opposites. U'ma shetzarech liot hashvelus kodem tefillah, and the reason why this shvelus, this lowliness, needs to be before davening, dafka specifically, lefi shebetefillah hu tzarech limlos chisrono. In davening, you have to fulfill your lacks. You're lacking what you don't have. Ki inyan atfila hu inyan bakasha. Davening is a request. Ve'ein shayach bakasha ela kasha chaser lo ezer davar. And why would you request something if you have everything? Davar ma. Ve'ein milui ela al yedei midas atferes. And it can't be filled except by the quality of Tiferes. She'enu ba ki'im al yidei shvelus, which doesn't come except by the shvelus. If you're too full of yourself, obviously you can't sit with anyone else. Shegoremes hachdus kenizkar le'el, which causes the unity, as we said above, v'dai lemevin, and it's already understood.